All right. I've been saying this for over 10 years now, and I've not been proven wrong. It might be time to stop selling beer at baseball games.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast we talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, more like Booking. Yeah. The right stake can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball, and get the Booking.com app today. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Hey, I'm dropping this episode a little bit early today, and I'm dropping it before the Guardians play Detroit and Tarek Skubal on the mound. I'm playing this before the Yankees and the Royals lock antlers for what should be a very entertaining game in Kansas City. And there's a reason why I'm getting this one off pretty early, and that is right there. Your pal Sully needs to get a filling repaired tomorrow. I've got a good dental plan, and I have a dental appointment tomorrow, which means after the game, I'll be on Novocaine. You record a podcast on Novocaine. So I'm going to have one up ready for what should be a fabulous day on Wednesday, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, you heard me right at the top. I think we got to start really having a good, long, hard conversation about selling beer at baseball games. And this isn't me being a prohibition person. This isn't me being a prude. I personally don't drink alcohol. I don't. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything like that. I have other vices, clearly. But I'm not a beer drinker. But I don't look down upon people who do. I'd be pretty busy looking down on a lot of people. I don't like the taste of beer. A lot of people clearly do. A lot of people like to get buzzed. A lot of people like to get drunk. And that's fine. I don't, but go ahead. But we have to start thinking about whether or not we got to continue doing this at baseball games. Now, we saw part of the results of that on the game between Los Angeles and San Diego at Dodger Stadium, when some real knuckleheads started throwing baseballs at Jurickson Profar. And that could have hurt him. That's damage. If your back is to the stands and someone chucks a baseball at you, they're basically sucker punching you. And I don't know for a fact that the person who threw the baseball at Jurickson Profar was drunk, but let me just say, I have a hunch. I have a hunch when the knuckleheads who ran across the field at Dodger Stadium during game one, I saw a picture of them. I have a feeling they couldn't pass the sobriety test. I was at the last game at the Oakland Coliseum, and it was a beautiful, emotional experience. And at the end, at least one person ran on the field, and a couple of people threw smoke bombs. I didn't give all of them a breathalyzer, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, I bet some of them weren't sober. And think about just an overarching experiences you've had at games. Have you ever had a bad experience at a baseball game? I've been there when the fights have broken out. I've been there when there have been a couple of really obnoxious people who kind of take away the enjoyment of going to a game. And how often does it involve people who are drunk? I'm guessing a lot. I've been to a billion baseball games in my life, and I've seen a lot of people who are fun drunks. People can hold a beer. But I've also seen a lot of people who can't. And I've seen a lot of people who can't kind of ruining the experience for a lot of people. I also know a lot of people who don't take their kids. I live in Los Angeles County. I know a lot of people who don't take their kids to Dodger Stadium. Why? Well, first of all, the traffic's a pain in the ass, but also because of the drunks. Drunks. If you were going to go to a Red Sox Yankee game or a Cardinals Cubs game or a Dodger Giant or for that matter, Dodger Padre game, and you're wearing the wrong hat, I've been around sober people. You'll get ribbings. You'll get some taunts. Hell, I went to enough Red Sox games at Yankee Stadium pre-2004 where all I heard was 1918 and Buckner and Bucky Dent and Babe Ruth and all that crap. And it was fun, innings 1 through 4. And innings 5 through 7, I hid my cap because you knew it could get ugly. When those idiots ran on the field and tried to stab the first base coach at a White Sox game all those years ago, they were drunk. Whenever you see any of these big fights, oh, they were drunk. And after a while, if you know you're going to have a lot of people sitting in an enclosed area, a lot of testosterone brewing, a lot of machismo, a lot of people who, I don't know, could have a spark. Do you really want to lubricate that with beer? Seriously. At some point, do you say, hey, I found a common denominator here? Maybe we should try to cater to the people who could enjoy themselves without getting plastered. And by the way, you remember I said about the families? If you're running a baseball stadium, you're running a baseball operations there, wouldn't you rather have a family of 4 or 5 show up? They all pay the tickets. And you get it instead of 2 drunks showing up, you get 5 or 6 people showing up. And you got to placate those kids with hot dogs and sodas and ice cream, those little Dippin' Dots and everything like that. Wouldn't you rather have that as your customer there? And why do we have to bend over backwards for the people who make the experience of baseball unpleasant? I'm actually not kidding about this. Maybe this is a sign of my age or the sign that I don't drink and I can enjoy the game without it. But why is it that the common factor almost all this is, I don't know, them getting plowed? Now, you could say, Sully, why are you punishing people, blah, 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 blah. We always do that. We've always done stuff like that. We've always said, hey, do you know what? You all can't be on the playground the way you used to because some people got hurt. You have to take your shoes off at the airport because one guy failed that, a shoe bomb. There's always stuff that we say, hey, look it, this is just gone too far. I'd like to see one stadium try it. I'd like to see one stadium try it and see if the attendance goes down. By the way, this is not a new thing for me. Back when I used to do the Sully Baseball Daily podcast, 10 years, or not quite 10 years ago, December 31st, 2014, episode number 799, I was making this same point. At that point, I made an example that maybe we could do like season 3 of The Wire, where they had Amsterdam, basically the one neighborhood where you could sell drugs, and for the rest of it, everything was fine. Maybe we have one section where you get absolutely plowed, and that basically becomes Thunderdome, and everyone else can actually enjoy ourselves. I think this is something that is worth giving some thought to. And when we come back, I'm going to cut some of the early anticipated criticism of what I'm saying off at the pass, because do you know what? I thought about this a little deeper than you probably think I have. Hey, this episode of Locked On MLB is brought to you by Booking.com, or more like Booking.yeah. Explore those U.S. cities you've secretly wanted to learn more about, with hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You may find your perfect stay. If you're a Los Angelino, You may even like going to San Diego. Maybe it's time to test your baseball competition's stadium cuisine. Go to the Gaslamp District in San Diego. Good food there. Maybe you'll get drunk there beforehand. I don't know, and neither do you. But you got a great place to stay if you use Booking.com. It can deliver the right stay for you and help you find a hotel right by your rival. Hey, if you're a Met fan, check out Philly. Philly's not a bad place. So no matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Bookie.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts to that great place I stayed in Cooperstown, Bookie.com has so many choices across the United States. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals in baseball. Booking.com. Booking.com? More like booking. Yeah. I know that beer is associated with baseball in a very big way. Hell, there's a team called the Brewers. There's a stadium called Coors Field, a stadium called Busch Stadium, and until recently, a stadium called Miller Park. It's now some insurance park, which, by the way, probably there because of all the drunks who fell down the steps. Yeah, I know there's a team that's called the Brewers whose mascot, one of their mascots is a guy so drunk he's sliding down a slide, and the other is an actual barrel with a face. I get it. I get it that beer sales are very big in concessions. I get it. You would also used to be really big in stadiums. Lots of advertisements for it all over the place. Huge advertisements and huge endorsements from the players. Smoking, cigarettes. When I played in a youth baseball tournament when I was about maybe 9 or 10 years old, I must have been 9 years old. Over the dugout was a giant Marlboro sign. There were Marlboro signs and Camel signs all over ballparks when I was growing up. Chesterfield, It's a Hit was the biggest billboard advertisement they had at the Polo Grounds. Besides Rheingold beer, and baseball players did endorsements for cigarettes left and right. And I'm not talking about just the days of Ebbets Field. I'm talking about look at your old baseball programs into the 1990s. Cigarettes. You could smoke at the stadium, and there are advertisements everywhere. Can you smoke at the stadium now? No. Do they advertise for that? No. How's the revenues going for baseball? Pretty solid. Pretty solid. So you can make those adjustments. And hell, they made adjustments in New York that you can't smoke in the bars in New York. And people are like, oh, this is terrible. It's terrible. Until eventually, like, oh, wait a minute, this is actually kind of pleasant. Going into a bar and having your eyes not sting, not being around a furnace. Imagine you finally go to a ball game and, hey, there are no more drunks here. Or all the drunks are in that section over there. This is actually kind of nice. There's no fights, or there's fewer. I'm sure there'll always be fights, but there'll be fewer fights breaking out. It'll be more pleasant, and you can concentrate on the game, because that's the other thing. Whenever you see someone busting out in a fight or yelling this or doing that, I always want to grab one of them by the lapels and say, what's the score? Who's pitching? They don't know because they're staggering drunk. Being a drunk doesn't make you a fan. It makes you a drunk. As I said in the video that I made way back in 2011, if you're saying, oh, well, you paid full price for a ticket, you can act any way you want. No, you can't. Okay? I paid full price too, and I didn't come to pay money to watch a drunk. If you want to be an idiot, and I said this in a video I did back in 2011, I may post this video on Sully Baseball on Twitter or whatever it's called now. If you like acting like an idiot, guess what? There's so many ways to act like an idiot at a baseball game. You can paint your face, you can paint your belly, you can come dressed up as Grimace. You can do all sorts of dumb things that don't involve getting plowed. I also have this idea. And before you think I'm just a prude and I want to just eliminate some of the finer things of your enjoyment, as our society is moving a little bit closer to Marijuana freedom. How about that? Legalize pot. What if we replace the beer with that? Hear me out. Hear me out. If we have legalized pot, and believe me, Denver is going to be the ideal place for this. But if we do that instead of beer, when was the last time you saw a big fight break out and you thought, oh man, those guys were so high? When was the last time that happened? When was the last time you saw someone screaming and acting all belligerent and like, oh man, not someone else on pot? No, no. You'll get someone probably listening to too much Fish or trying to blow you away because they think they figured out what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. All right, that's annoying, but not as annoying as those slobbering drunks at a ball game who start fights and do stupid things and make the process worse. I know you can't smoke. Maybe you have edibles or something. Oh, and by the way, if it's about the money, think about this for a second. Imagine you have people there who are on pot instead of beer. Where are they going to always go to? The concession stand. Or you just send vendors out. You'll be making so much money, you have a fleet of vendors. And he's sitting there going, oh, I don't know what to do. Then all of a sudden, the cotton candy guy comes by, and the red vines guy. If the A's had that going on, they'd be able to make so much money selling concessions, they'd be able to build their own stadium. I know it sounds like I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but I'm sorry. In a big gathering like a ballpark, I'd rather have people using that than beer. It's time we take a good, long, serious look at where beer is and its function in our stadiums. You can still sell the advertisements there. Just don't sell it there. They have car advertisements there. I don't recall being able to drive a Chevy into the ballpark. You can still, they have the whatever that tequila that George Clooney makes. Don't they have advertisements for that everywhere? I don't recall them having a vendor. Maybe I'm wrong. But when the common factor of a lot of the bad parts about a ball game experience is the beer, then it's really, really time to at least have the conversation of saying, hey, can we do something about it? Do we have to keep pretending that it's not a big problem? Because newsflash, it's a huge problem. Hey, let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 of bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sports book. Hey, it's now time to talk to our good friends over at Gametime. Guess what I did? No, seriously, guess what I did? I used Gametime the other day, and I bought a baseball ticket for this season. No, this isn't me doing my copy about going to the last day's game. If the Dodgers get to the NLCS and get to Game 6, your pal Sully will be there. And I use Gametime to get there, and I have great seats. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events easier. Guess what? I used it to get my NLCS tickets. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And I use my seat view. I got a panoramic view of the seat in the app. I love it. It's got the lowest price guarantee. Our Gametime will credit me 110% of the difference. And they got the coverage. The purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets and come join me at the NLCS with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right. Well, those are my thoughts on beer. Let's at least let me know your thoughts. I know some of you are going to violently disagree with me, but some of you disagree with me. Even someone violently disagreed with me when I said that the Dodgers have issues with their starting pitching staff. So people are going to disagree with me no matter what. Well, later today, Terrence Skubal is pitching against Boyd. Skubal was phenomenal in his one start against Houston. And Matthew Boyd is a veteran and a former Tiger. Lest we forget, he was a Tiger as recently as last year. A lot of years with Detroit, and he was there for not the great years. But his last game, he hasn't gone deep into games. His last game was against St. Louis in September. This may be an opener situation, but then again, he pitched great against Los Angeles in early September. He pitched great against Pittsburgh and great against Texas. So he's had some good, solid outings. But the Tigers are throwing Terrence Skubal. So if there is going to be a night where the Tigers get to show their stuff, it is going to be this afternoon. So we're going to see about that. And we're also going to see, look, the Yankees did not, as I mentioned the other day, they didn't play great, but they played well enough. And the Royals basically walked in a bunch of runs for the Yankees, and the Yankees took advantage of it. Give the Yankees credit. It was a game where they didn't have a great Cole performance. They got an offer from Aaron Judge, and it was they wound up doing the job. And you got to give Boone credit because he did what he had to do. He mixed and matched, and he did the bullpen correctly. Sorry, I meant to say correctly. Reagans is pitching for Kansas City. Rodon is pitching for the Yankees. Obviously, Reagans, his last bunch of games, has pitched pretty well. He pitched 6 solid innings against the Yankees on September 11th. And his last game, he pitched 6 shutout innings against Washington. So that was his last start in the regular season. And Carlos Rodon, his last bunch of games, his last half season was very, very good. And he had a solid season. So it's going to be a solid game we're going to see. Hopefully 2 really good matchups and 2 really great games before the bloodbath of what's going to happen in the National League is going to continue. All right, folks, I got to go to the dentist. So talking, and you know what, I may need a beer. Talking about beer at the ball games, and should we start thinking about what it really means? And giving you a quick preview of this afternoon's games. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.